You can find Adam Hewison as a regular contributor on Bloomberg, Business News Network, CNBC, and Fox Business News.
Hello, investors everywhere. Adam Hewison here with your market report for Friday, the 30th of August. Well, it's the end of summer and the end of the week, and also what's ahead for the markets in September. We've also got Syria overhanging this Labor Day weekend. Not sure what's going to happen there, but I'm not sure it's going to be good. So let's go right to the markets themselves, and we've got a bunch of markets to cover today. We're going to be covering the Dow, S&P, NASDAQ, and all the other major markets, plus some stocks that I think are interesting with all green triangles. So first of all, you'll notice that we have a red triangle on all, a weekly triangle on all of the indices. That's not a good sign. It means you should be out of this market if you're an intermediate term trader. You should not be in this market right now. So let's go right to the charts. And we're going to be looking at a monthly chart. You can see it right here. And this is not a good sign, in my opinion, this action here in the Dow. The Dow was the market that pushed the indices, that pushed up at the most important time. But if we close down here, it's still early in the day. It's about 12:15 or so. But we could actually see this market rally from where we are right now and close unchanged, which would change things a little bit, because right now where we are, this would be a new 3-month close on the monthly charts. So let's on the Dow. So let's go right to our next market. There's the S&P 500, and the S&P 500, a little bit of a different picture. It's still looking a little bit toppy. There's obviously a red bar. We want to see this market consolidate a little bit, but the general trend, the longer term trend based on our trade triangles, is still green and still positive, but you should be on the sidelines in this market waiting for a buy signal. On the NASDAQ, a little bit different. We are closing lower, but it's really a much happier picture, if you want to call it that way. We are up for the, well, we made new highs, but we're not down like making a 3-month low. We're actually towards a 3-month high. So I think this still looks very positive, but we want to wait for this red triangle to turn green, and then we'll be super, super positive on this market. Going on to our next market, we'll be looking at gold. Gold has really, while it's closing at its best levels in probably 3 months, it really hasn't changed a lot of things. It's very similar, I think, to this rally here. Then we sort of faded and we had a prolonged move down. Our monthly trade triangle from December 18th of last year is still pretty much intact, so it's really not saying this market's in a long-term bull market. I think we're going to have to wait until 2014. You can see we're flattening out a little bit on the MACD, and that's a good sign. Plus we have a plus 55 indicating a trading range. Right now, if you're a short-term trader, you should be out of this market. Moving along to crude oil. Crude oil obviously made new highs with the Syrian problem, and it's still closing at its best levels in some time, so that's to be respected. We have a plus 90 on our trade triangles, indicating the trend is clearly up, and we're looking for this market. We're looking for the 115 potentially, and we got very close to 112. I think we could still take another look at those numbers on the upside. So let's go to our next market. This is Amazon. This is definitely worth looking at. Amazon, if it closes below this low the previous month of last month, I think it's around 279, will have created a negative engulfing line, or bearish engulfing line. Some people call it a bearish engulfing line. If that is in fact the case, then we put a top in this market, and we could see further weakness coming in. So we go to minus 70. The long-term trend is still positive, of course, but the weekly is negative, indicating you should be out of this market right now. You should not be in Amazon. Looking at Apple, Apple actually is going to close. It's under pressure today, but it's actually going to close out the month probably the best it's seen in about 6 or 7 months, and you can go back all the way back to this month here, which is January of this year. So it's the best monthly close we've seen for the year so far in Apple. They come out September 10th with their new iPhones. They're going to start in a new trade-in policy on Monday for iPhones. They'll give you cash if you buy a new iPhone, so that should be an interesting solution. I may do that myself. So moving along to Netflix. Netflix, we really, really like this stock, and of course it's up very nicely for the month. It's up 16% for the month, and we see this market going to 300, the old highs, and possibly going much higher. This is, by the way, if we scope this out even further, this is going to be the highest monthly close we have ever seen in Netflix. They're doing something very right. Reed Hastings and his crowd, they're doing something very right in this market. So moving back to, let's say, a couple of years, just so we don't get squished out there. Moving on to our next market, Best Buy. Best Buy, they're performing incredibly well, up 20% for the month. You can't ignore that type of growth. They've got a very, very basic strategy. It's like beat Amazon. If Amazon has a price for a product, Samsung, a Galaxy, or Windows, or an Apple product, they're going to match it. So the advantage that they have customer support there right in the store, plus you walk out with a product. That's a huge plus in my mind. So let's go to our next market. That's the euro. The euro is really kind of flat. You can see for the last 6-7 months it's really gone nowhere, trading around 132. We closed last month around the 132.70 level, so really for the month it hasn't done a lot. Clearly we've talked about the 134 being really major resistance. It seems to prove that to be the case this month as well. So I think you're going to be looking at more sideways action in September unless something really, really changes the dynamics of this market. So I think that's pretty much it for the last day of the week, the last day of the month, and probably the last day of the summer. I want to wish everybody a very, very nice Labor Day weekend, and we'll be back, and let's have a great September.